It's not one of those fights where Crawford can easily lose. I mean, Crawford's very skillful, man. He's the top dog right now. I mean, he's very skillful.
One beats Terence Crawford, and everybody's trying to age him out.
The boxing world has reacted to the much-anticipated Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford fight announcement. The latest reports suggest that His Excellency Turki Alek is planning to schedule this fight in the not-so-distant future. The head of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority disclosed to ESPN his contemplation of hosting the blockbuster showdown either in December or January within the United States. Al-Sheikh said, "I'm working to deliver Canelo, but it will be a big fight for Crawford. I'll discuss with him the names." Crawford, the renowned former dual-weight undisputed title holder, has teamed up with Alek in preparation for his imminent showdown with Israel. The reigning WBA super welterweight champion's next match should be against Canelo, assuming he wins that fight. Crawford said of a past showdown with Canelo, "You got two of the top fighters of this decade, not just in the past year or so. You have two fighters that have been at the top for 10 years. You got the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and you got the #1 money man. I never like to overlook anyone. I have a fight coming up on August 3, and that's where my main focus is." Canelo once again affirmed his dominance as the supreme 168-pounder in the world by successfully defending his undisputed super middleweight championship in a unanimous decision victory over Haim Mangia this past Saturday evening. Crawford gave his decision right away following the bout. When he was present, he said, "I thought it was a good fight. I thought Mangia fought hard. I just think his inexperience caught up to him and made him fall in and square up. Not stepping in with his punches allowed Canelo to sit back, counter, and pick his shots. Canelo was a real patient. Alek has intentions to organize a 5 versus 5 event in December, intertwining the essence of the UK and USA, reminiscent of the Queensberry Matchroom clash on June 1st. This time, the ring will witness a showdown between a squad of British pugilists and their American counterparts. The Saudi boxing chief's strategy to improve boxing includes all of this. He said, "Boxing is broken, but I think we don't need to get everything back together." Boxing sat at the top of the global sports landscape for much of the 20th century, but with the best matchups being relegated to pay-per-view, the lack of a centralized governing body, and the minimization of pugilism at the Olympics, the sport has waned in popularity. In the meantime, supporters may be eager to witness Canelo square off against David Benavidez, but it seems the spotlight may shift to a potential bout with Crawford instead. Crawford sounded the bogle shortly after becoming the first male two-division unchallenged champion. During his speech at the Breakfast Club, he proposed a catchweight bout. "We can do something at a catchweight." Crawford said about his fight with Alvarez that he further added, saying probably 160 or something like 158. "Yeah, 158, 160, that would be cool. There's no questioning Terence Crawford's prowess and unwavering resolve, yet the looming obstacle persists in the form of weight disparity. While Canelo Alvarez's slim chances of shedding pounds linger, the onus falls back on the welterweight champion to ascend. But the direct engagement of Turkey's Alek has injected a fresh dynamic into the situation. Numerous voices continue to echo the anticipation surrounding the elusive Ben's bout. While others can't overlook the weight discrepancy concerning Crawford, seeing it as a significant concern nonetheless, there are those who confidently forecast the match result. This fan seems rather unimpressed with the latest updates. They argue that a bout between a welterweight and a super middleweight boxer wouldn't draw much interest in their view. If Canelo were to defeat Terence, critics would quickly attribute it to Terence being significantly smaller than the Mexican powerhouse. The fan said no one wants to see a welterweight versus a super middleweight. Benavidez versus Canelo, the upcoming showdown, appears to be shrouded in uncertainty regarding its adherence to the specified timetable. Alvarez is already committed to a bout slated for September, while Crawford is steadfast in his pursuit of becoming an undisputed champion in the third weight class, just like their predecessor. This individual also advocates for the anticipated clash between Alvarez and Novitz. The fan added that he's not going to fight because Canelo is supposed to fight in September. "I mean, it could work, but I doubt it'll happen, and everyone wants Canelo versus Benavidez. Crawford is chasing his third undisputed right now. Yet another dissenting voice emerges adamantly opposed to the notion. They argue that weight classes exist for valid reasons, deeming the notion of bridging a three-class chasm absurd. Instead, they propose that Bud focus on unifying the 154 bits division, suggesting that such a feat would bring him greater renown. The fan expressed that he's not as interested as everyone else in seeing this fight. There are weightlifting classes for a reason. I'm a big Bud fan, but this is a bridge too far. I would much rather see him attempt to unify and defend at 154. There are some great fights to be made and much glory to gain at 154. This fan perceives Crawford's ascent through 3 divisions as a formidable challenge, but in terms of skill, they place him above Alvarez. Consequentially, if this were to occur, the odds favor Crawford, likely culminating in a decision victory. The fan added a tall mountain to climb, but skill-wise, he's better than Canelo. I'd give Crawford a chance to win, according to sources. Canelo seems to harbor some reservations about facing off against Terence Crawford during an interview with Boxeo. The reigning super middleweight champion expressed reluctance when questioned about the possibility of a showdown, with Bud opting not to entertain the idea further. According to him, it will become a fight where I have everything to lose and nothing to gain, because if I win, they'll say, "Oh, he was too small and everything." With the direct involvement of His Excellency Turki Alek, the prospects of the historic Alvarez-Crawford showdown materializing are now more promising than ever. Andrew Rozier is against Crawford, challenging Canelo for the super middleweight crowns of the IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO by climbing up to 168 pounds. Rozier said he doesn't like it. Canelo hasn't been rattled by anybody, and he's been in with some big punchers. I don't like that fight for Crawford. Rozier expressed that he liked Terence at 154 and perhaps touching the ground at 160, but at 168 he didn't like it. He mentioned that Terence would box well because he was a great athlete and boxer, but he didn't want to see him going into such a situation. Rozier expressed that I like Terence at 154 and maybe touching the ground at 160, but at 168, I don't like it. He's going to box well because he's a fantastic athlete and a fantastic boxer, but I don't want to see him go into deep water like that. Crawford seems acutely aware of the gamble, yet his drive to secure maximum earnings before his imminent retirement overrides caution. A face-off against Canelo promises Crawford his most lucrative payday to date, with the potential for a lucrative match if he emerges victorious. Nevertheless, should Canelo decisively outclass Crawford, it might mark the end of his career. Rozier said if it's about money, it's a different story, but his legacy is being lamented in a fantastic way, and I'd hate to see it tarnished by trying to do too much. Rozier added that he believed Terence was already at that level, mentioning that he was headed to the Hall of Fame and had impressive accolades with mountain-high stats. However, he expressed his concern about Terence getting into a situation where he could be defeated. I think Terence is already there. He's going to the Hall of Fame. His accolades have mountain-high stats to them. I don't want to see him get into a situation where he could get beat. He has to build up to it. I just can't see it, but it appears that Crawford's focus is squarely on the greenbacks. He's eyeing the hefty purse he secured from his bout with Errol Spence, and the sole source for such a payday is Canelo. While athleticism might dictate otherwise, Crawford would opt to remain at 147 and square off against Jim and Boots. Andes, if it were solely about the sport, talking about fighters not moving up to 3 weight classes in a single move in the past, Rozier said these things didn't happen before once in a blue moon, but now it's modus operandi. Now it's like I'm fighting at 140 and I'm going to be fighting at cruiserweight in a year. It's ridiculous. There's a common phrase, and it holds true. There's a reason why there are weight classes, while this fight might remain a mere figment of imagination. Jeff Mayweather has some intriguing thoughts on how it could unfold following Canelo's recent triumph over Hammy Manja. A reporter from Fight Hype couldn't resist questioning Jeff about the potential showdown. After collecting Jeff's thoughts on Canelo's performance, the reporter went straight in with the fantasy fight. In response, the retired world champion said, "I mean 2 weight classes. I think he could still have some problems with Crawford," and although Jeff was certain that Crawford posed a threat, he did not undervalue Canelo's ability. Jeff remarked that the weight was a significant factor to consider. He emphasized that Crawford's skills alone couldn't guarantee success at 168 against someone who had been in the sport for a considerable time, but still, that weight is something to deal with, and you can't just say that because of Crawford's skills, he can automatically go up to 168 and beat the guy who's been doing this for a long time. Canelo has been one of the best fighters in the world for a long time, so that's a big jump. Shakur Stevenson has expressed that Canelo would be no match for Terence Crawford. Canelo's recent performance against Mongia impressed Stevenson, but he maintained that Bud was still superior to the super middleweight champion. He tweeted that hell of you fighter Canelo is still, I think Bud beats him. It is true that Crawford is now the best fighter in the pound-for-pound division, but as mentioned before, those victories came at super lightweight and welterweight, which are 3 and 4 weight classes below Canelo, respectively. Before the money was confirmed, there were whispers that Crawford might take on Canelo. Next, Canelo swiftly withdrew from the battle when boxer Teka asked Canelo if he would take on Crawford. Canelo replied no. The interviewer reminded Canelo of the lucrative potential of accepting the fight, yet the boxing lum AR deemed Crawford unworthy of the endeavor. He said yes, but they're going to criticize me, and that's it. They love it. They criticized me because I fought Charlo, who gained weight and is bigger than me. Because I'm a small fighter for these weights and because he gained weight, but they didn't criticize him when I went up in weight. Mike Tyson, who voiced his disapproval of the Mexican boxing sensation during an interview with Mara Tyson, said that what's wrong with Canelo is that he's afraid of losing. Tyson further added that if I were him, I would accept the fight with Novitz and show the world that he is the best, but it seems he doesn't have the courage to do it. It is a shame because he has a lot of talent, but he lacks. Meanwhile, Juan Manuel Marquez, a 4-weight class champion, issues a cautionary message to Crawford before he ventures into Canelo's territory. Marquez believes that challenging Canelo would present numerous advantages for the Mexican fighter, advising Crawford against even contemplating such a matchup. Marquez acknowledged Crawford's being a great fighter, but we need to realize weight classes exist for a reason. His stance is clear. A significant weight disparity gives Canelo a hefty advantage, as he mentioned. Crawford needs to fight in the welterweight division or at the super welterweight maximum because Canelo would have too many advantages. Marquez made a compelling case advocating for Crawford's continued presence in the welterweight realm, or perhaps pushing it to the super welterweight tier at most. Beyond a mere technical analysis, it resonates as a plea for equity in the sport. Marquez appears to express that a bout conducted in such circumstances would not truly measure skill, but rather serve as a platform for showcasing Canelo's physical prowess. The esteemed fighter also subtly gestures toward what he perceives as the genuine desires of the fans. He declared that people wanted to see the Canelo versus Benavidez fight, but Canelo demonstrates his astute business acumen alongside his legendary boxing prowess, asserting his prerogative to select bouts according to his vision. He appears less inclined towards a matchup with David Benavidez. Canelo readily admitted his privilege. He said, I can fight any fighter, I earn good money, and I can do whatever I want right now, and I deserve it because I've done everything in my career, and I deserve to be in this position as discussions intensify. It becomes evident that both Crawford and Canelo harbor have distinct advantages and reservations regarding such a showdown. Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you enjoyed this one.